Welcome to the Buffalo Commander podcast. I have a special guest with us today, Derek Altizer. He's a big time Ravens fan. We're without Kevin today. He decided to go shopping for a new wardrobe since he only has two shirts to wear for the podcast. Just kidding. He couldn't make it. Wanted to bring Derek on today. It's the divisional round week. I would have brought you on last week, but you were too good to play on the week that we were on. So I figured I'd bring you on today and kind of have a conversation. Derek and I know each other pretty well. And then we can kind of go from there. I wanted to give a breakdown also on the wild card weekend before we do that. Buffalo won. We handled business at Pittsburgh, which is I was not surprised by, but I did get a little worried with the weather situation. But we moved the game. It became much more clear because the wind went away, the snow. We didn't have any of that stuff to deal with.
Right.
So that's I really didn't have any fear with that game. I thought we lulled in the middle of the game. We started off hot, and then we ended. As soon as they made a little comeback, we put them away. I feel like we woke up a little bit.
I wanted to thank you. Yeah,
Huh?
I wanted to thank you first off for beating those awful yellow towel Steelers.
Dirty Steeler fans.
I can't tell you how much I hate that towel. I'm not kidding. I love Heather. I love your family. But I am excited. I was excited for you guys to get in there and just destroy them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you mentioned with the game moving, I mean, that was huge because that day of, I mean, the ground and pound that the Steelers like to do, they like to keep the game close, like to keep a low scoring game. And then they just want to ground and pound with their two running backs. So I think it still was a little bit bad weather, but Buffalo did a great job of clearing that up. Because if y'all would have played that first day, that would have been, I mean, even if
I don't know what would have happened.
Pouring, it would have been just, you still would have got it, but I think it would have been just a tougher game because it kind of gives them what they do, the smash mouth, ground and pound, keep the low scoring game. Don't let Mason hurt you because he won't be throwing past, 5-10 yard passes.
And to be clear, I think I liked Mason in college. I think he's better than Kenny Pickett. I think he's better than Mitch Trubisky. I think he was. I think he got a raw deal because he didn't develop immediately, which has never been the plan for him. And then they had a guy who played at Pitt available in the draft and took him in the 20s. And I think it was an awful. I'd never really been a big Kenny Pickett fan, so. I think now that he's got his chance and kind of see what he's doing, I think he's found himself a little bit. I thought he made some good throws in the game. I think Buffalo's defense responded, although we did lose a lot of players. I think a lot of those guys are potentially going to play this week anyway.
The ankle injury was huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Terrell Bernard, our starting middle linebacker, hurt himself,
right?
But it's a sprain. It's not a break, which is good.
That's awesome.
He didn't practice today, but he is he's day to day and not out for the game yet. If it was super serious, I think they would have just designated him out. So today, he hasn't practiced today, but I wasn't really expecting to walk through. I think they're going to test it out and see how it goes from there. And then we'll see from there. I think that's going to be the biggest problem with the Chiefs games. If he doesn't play, how we guard the middle of the field with Kelsey. However, we've mitigated problems like this before. So I'm afraid to say like, oh, he's going to kill us, but Kelsey's not what he used to be. And our defense has been known to adapt, and we've been dealing with this kind of stuff all year. So I think that at the end of the day, we're going to have a situation where we're running with next man up mentality, and then we'll go from there. So hopefully by Thursday, we'll know more about whether he'll play or not, but we will get other guys back. And a lot of the guys that did get dinged up in that game seem to be on track to potentially play, other than Taron Johnson, who's limited today actually with a concussion. So hopefully he'll play. He's one of the best slot players in the game. But yeah, I think that was the only downside out of the game that came out of it. Once we got some injuries, they put it on us a little bit, put a little pressure on us, but I was never afraid we were going to lose. Even when we were only up by 7 at the end, I was like, we're just going to score now. I had a feeling we were going to do it.
And the big thing you brought up, and I think we talked about this earlier the year before, is when you lost Milano. I mentioned from the outside, I watched Buffalo a lot. My dad's that's his favorite team, Buffalo Bills. So I watched a lot of Buffalo before, but besides the Ravens, as you are with the Ravens, that's kind of my other team I follow. But I thought when Milano went out, I wasn't sure how that defense would recover because he's just such an underrated. I mean, everybody knows, the Buffalo fans know, but outside, if you asked 10 regular fans about who was Milano, some would know. But a lot of people wouldn't know how much of an impact he does from the sideline to sideline, all that extra stuff that's not on the stat sheet. So
Yeah.
I thought when you lost him and you did have a little spurt for a while, I thought that was going to be the main guy in your defense, even though you've had some good pass rushing. It's just that middle of the field, how big he was. So you had to have the, what's his name, back this weekend. It's day to day, even though we thought
Terrell
that ankle might have been, Trenard might have been broken because it looked bad. And then, remember,
really
we talked
bad
about that when we were watching it. And it just showed just in that game, in the last little bit, how important inside linebackers are, even though they don't get the money like they used to and they're not as much popular as outside linebackers. But it showed him just doing a little bit of trying to cover that hole. He's going to do a good job of kind of helping, because when that middle wasn't working for you guys, it just that losing streak you had was a lot of just the middle. Getting attacked in the middle and just deeper middle shots.
As soon as Milano went down, we went on a run. There's a guy, Aaron Schatz, who created DVOA. He was on the radio today talking about Buffalo and how they have like a mountain, or their defense is just like super high level. And then when Milano goes out, they see a huge dip, and then now it's recovered, and now it's the DVOA is really good. And DVOA is basically situational football. You know, how good the defense performs when the situation matters. So if you give up 2 yards on a 3rd and 2 and they get the first down, that actually hurts you more in defense for your DVOA than them getting 20 yards on a 3rd and 25, right?
Yeah.
So it's impacted us in a game in our defense. And then I think they figured it out. And then we lose the other guy who's been the reason we played like we have. So hopefully he comes back, or, you know, we should just figure out how to adapt in the moment, you know.
And like you said, the DVOA is huge. I mean, what it stands for is defense adjusted value over average.
Yeah.
And you pretty much summed it up like that too, with the performance on the baseline. And it's so huge because they just take in the stats. It's a lot more than just, you know, 3rd down, you know, red zone, overall conversion, total yards. Because I think me and you are on the same page. Total yard defense, it's a little overrated. Like you said,
garbage time.
Yeah, because you could have 10 teams and the top 5 are 10-yard difference. It's not. I mean, obviously, we talk more about, and we can talk about the obviously 3rd down conversions on defense or offense, and then just red zone defense and offense. But the DVOA, it's crazy because the Ravens, one thing they do, I think they're in the top 5 DVOA since 2000 this year.
Well, they're first this year.
Yeah, this year, but overall since 2000.
And it's a gap.
Which is crazy.
Ravens and 49ers are first and second, and then there's a gap, and then it's Buffalo.
Yep, Buffalo's 3rd. Yeah, no, and it's a huge difference, but it shows. I think I saw with Baltimore it was like 45%. San Francisco's around 40. Even Buffalo at 25. I mean, it's a gap, but it's still big. And even after that, it's like Dallas at 18 or something.
Yeah, it's a drop to like 18 or something like that. And then like the Chiefs are like 8th, which I'm not surprised by. Buffalo always does well in DVOA and EPA, which is expected points added per play, right? Oddly enough, things like EPA, DVOA, they don't value turnovers all that high because the variance there is very high. Like it's hard to predict turnovers. So they get a negative point for that, but they also go extreme in the other end with yards and first downs and things like that matter more. So I don't want to bog us down with that, but that's kind of how it rolls. Yeah. So the rest of the wild card weekend was not as predicted. Dallas got smoked. I'm pretty surprised. I'm surprised Cleveland got smoked. And I'm also surprised that the Dolphins didn't even put up a fight. I mean,
I thought, I think we talked about this a little bit, but just to go break down game real quick, is the Dallas game obviously surprised me just because of how good they are at home. We have seen on the road, obviously, 1-4, 1-5. They're just a different team. And then being at home and just the electricity behind that. I mean, Green Bay was getting better, but they were still up and down at the end. They made the playoffs because the NFC was just so weak after that, that 6th seed. I mean, so they deserved the shot, but Jordan Love has been playing better. But I mean, the way they came out and the way Jordan Love and then Aaron Jones, I think I told you about how bad Dallas has been against the run the last month. I mean, they're near the bottom against the run. I didn't realize Aaron Jones was going to have 3 touchdowns, and run like he did. But he hasn't been healthy all year either.
Dan Quinn refuses to adjust. He leaves. Okay, so his middle linebacker is smaller than me. I'm 6'2" and 210. Yeah. He's smaller than me, playing middle linebacker in the NFL.
Right.
That Aaron Jones probably outweighs him. And they have him. Buffalo did the same thing to him. We just said, we're just going to run at this guy. We're going to let Micah Parsons run through because we're going to run it by him anyway. He's just going to over pursue. And then we're going to run at this guy who weighs 205 pounds. It's like you can't do it. And Dan Quinn refuses to move Micah Parsons to the middle where he played in college and take away that pass rush, where the pass rush is utterly useless when you're just running by the guy every time. You should have shifted over and done all those things. And Dan Quinn refused. He's up for head coaching jobs. I don't know how anybody wants to hire that guy. I mean, I know that they're down men, but you can't start that guy, you know?
Yeah, and I think the Parsons thing is it's so tough because he can do everything. So you can shift him like Garrett does and Watt. You can move him around a lot, especially Watt, and then Parsons, you can just move him on the other sides. But you almost get too clever where you just keep doing the same thing, just pass rushes. When he can go back, he can run with the tight ends and then help out with the running backs catching out of the backfield. But you just do a one-trick pony for a guy that's that good. You just need to adjust, and they didn't adjust, and they just kept running. And Jordan Love was playing like he is the next. They compared him to Brett Favre in the past, and I mean, he's gunslinging. He's not on that level, but the way he was running out of the pocket and just being, I mean, the throws were good. Running out of the pocket, a lot of times you panic, but he looked good.
Him and CJ had, I mean, I felt like they both arrived, even though CJ's played good all year.
Who's the other one?
CJ Stroud.
I don't.
You don't know who that is? Yeah, you'll know this weekend.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'm not gonna. No karma on me.
No, but he's. I mean, I remember watching preseason football with you, and I was like, this guy sucks. In preseason,
I liked him, but yes, you did not like him.
I didn't like it at that point. I was like, God, well, maybe he's not good. So, he's been great almost all year. After the game, y'all played them early in the season. He's been great.
Yeah, first game of the season.
Yeah, and he wasn't bad in that game. He hasn't been bad all year. Love has been maybe the best quarterback, top 3 quarterback in football for the last 7 weeks.
Yeah. And before that, they were talking about benching him. Like Green Bay fans, I wanted to bench him or get him out. And granted, in the middle of the year, he did have some learning curve, but they stuck with him, and he's been night and day. I mean, how much CJ's been gradually getting better. He's always been decent from the beginning.
Yeah.
But besides the preseason, but Jordan did have that stretch where it was not looking good. I mean, they were looking at like he just wasn't playing well. He'd have a really good game and then just look like he just was a rookie again.
Yeah.
And he looked like an All-American. So, but like you said,
I think that was, I mean, I know we've known that these guys can play, but this was their coming out party. Like they both look like they belonged in the top 5 to 7 quarterback conversation going forward.
Right.
And I mean, I'd rather play Kansas City than I would the Texans, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I think they're more dangerous. You know what you're getting from Kansas City. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to play Green Bay either. I think Green Bay's a weird matchup for San Francisco. I think y'all are both going to beat those teams, but I think that they're more dangerous. I said it last week when I brought Mike on, and he said he's a Dallas fan. He was like, "Look, we're just better than they are," and I agreed.
Yeah, top to bottom. That's true. And then
true statement. Jordan Love turned into Patrick Mahomes. You know,
any given Sunday, man.
So
that's why
I don't like I said, I think the 49ers and the Ravens are too good to get beat by these teams. I think they're going to need like an exorbitant amount of turnovers in order to alter the trajectory of those games. I don't think that it's going to be a risk, but I do think that they are dangerous.
And if we go back to the playoff thing, I mean, obviously the Dallas was a shocker, but they gave up the run and they just weren't ready to win. Dallas 101. And then obviously then we cut to the Sunday games or the earlier Saturday game with Cleveland and Texans. From this side, and obviously everybody's different than that, I know I've talked to you about it, is I didn't want any part of Cleveland. Not just because I know the defense was number 1 overall in a lot of categories. We played them twice. They know us well. And like I said, obviously playing a team 3 times in a year. I mean, even though we split, I mean, it's just they know Lamar better. I mean, that's why Pittsburgh plays us so well. That's why Cleveland does, Cincinnati. It wasn't really just that. And the Flacco thing, I think I was, obviously I love Flacco when he's here. He had a great run with us. Nothing but respect for Flacco. I'm glad he got the starting job. He was on that little winning streak with Cleveland. I think the only thing that kind of went both ways with him is the defense he's playing. I mean, he played Chicago. He played a couple teams that way. He played a perfect set of teams that didn't have really crazy offense that would keep it close. But also the defenses, even the Jets were falling off a little bit at the end. Like he just had a lot of time games where even the Chicago game, he won at the end, but there weren't any defense really pushing him because he can still throw the ball. He was throwing over 300 yards for 3 games, but he wasn't throwing as many interceptions because that's what he does. But once he starts getting a little bit of pressure, then you saw interception. That's what happened to the Jets when he got cut because they were thinking about keeping him. And they mentioned that they just want to keep him because of just the interception. Like he's really good. He can give you 300 plus yards. And he's a smart player. Still got an arm. I mean, I don't know if it's top 5 anymore, but it's still a cannon.
Yeah, he's still got a gun.
But I didn't want to play if we're going with the playoff, I didn't want to play Cleveland. The defense was already great. Garrett's just a beast, even though he had 0 sacks in the Texans game. So hopefully we look at that. So hats off to that offense because he had 0 sacks and 1 QB pressure. which is unreal because it's Garrett.
Yeah.
But I was just more worried about and I list the karma juju of just Flacco back in Baltimore, the pressure it put on the Baltimore, like, whoa, what if this playoff Joe comes, which he was great for us. I mean, he had the best playoff run ever, but in that time period. But I was just worried about that just because of Joe coming there, he knowing it, just being hyped up for it. I know we would be too, but I didn't want any parts of Cleveland. So I was happy with the outcome. Obviously, it could change. I don't really go back to the first game when people ask me. That was the first game of the season. They're young. CJ was just starting off. He still played well, like you said. He had a good game. He had over 240 yards. I think the biggest we sacked him 6 times. So I think the big thing is we had to get pressure on him because Cleveland, for some reason, they do the man-to-man, but they try. I mean, Garrett was rushing, but they weren't rushing as much as they usually do. CJ had time, and he picked him apart. He's a good quarterback. I think I mentioned to you that
you have Tunsil
I wanted.
too. Tunsil,
I think
Tunsil isolated him a little bit. Now he'll get his eventually, but I think it gave him enough time to. And another thing too is when your offense isn't performing, your defense wears down. It's like the Jets, right? They were bad on offense, so bad that they made probably a top 2 defense look like they were a top 15 defense because they can't keep going. They're going to wear down over time. And I think that's what you saw a little bit in that game where Houston got on top of them a little bit and then they just kind of started to wear down, Yeah,
the man-to-man is we play more zone, which comparing the two teams just for the playoff of last week, we play more zone, which works really well for us. We will do man-to-man sometimes, but Cleveland does they do a lot more man-to-man, just the type. They have Ward.
They do straight up. Yeah, they
play
you straight up.
And Ward and Newsome, they're both young. They're both 2 of the better cornerbacks in the league based on their age in their 20s. I think the weird thing, if you watch PFF, they'll do a lot of times, as we've watched secondary, they'll show the camera of how the secondary moves, how the cornerbacks move, how the receivers, because, a lot of times we'll see quarterbacks running and we're like, why can't we see farther down the field? Are people getting open? How are they running their routes? How's the defense on them? Because a lot of times it doesn't show that in the games. But the PFF one I was watching with Cleveland was, I don't know what Newsome was doing. Newsome's been great. He's not as good as Ward, but he's good. If you look at Nico's couple of his routes, he ran 2 slants, 1 slant. They were playing man-to-man, and Newsome was just way behind. He just let him go by him and then switched. And then another time they were playing the zone where he still should have kept him in the area, and he just completely just went the other way and let the safety just try to get him one-on-one. Yeah. That was Newsome's worst game. I wouldn't put it on one player ever.
He's more of a nickel anyway. He can't guard a guy like Nico.
And he was on him a lot. They put Nico on his side, and it was smart because Ward is their best player. Ward should be on him, but he doesn't always travel. But I was really surprised with Newsome how that probably was his worst game of the career. I think he even mentioned that. But he just wasn't. I mean, there's 2 or 3 big plays that just really put Cleveland behind. And Flacco just threw some bad balls because he's trying to catch up. But Newsome was not. It wasn't his best game. I think that was the guy that really got the worst of that. But I am glad of the Texans over that. I understand how they're playing. Like I said, I think we need to get to Stroud. I don't think we'll get 6 sacks again, but we need to get them. The running game for them is very average. You got your boy Singletary there, which actually took over the role, which is weird because I thought Damian was gonna. In fantasy, I picked him up. I thought this guy's gonna come back and kill it. And he came back after he was hurt, and they gave him his shot. He was averaging like 2.2 yards a carry. I don't know how he had such a good year. Maybe he's just not finding the holes, but then Singletary came in. And he's been good, not great, but he's been good. He's their number 1 back now. So, but back to the Cleveland Texans game. It's just the Texans once they got ahead, they didn't stop. But Nico's great, but Nico had a lot of he had a couple slants and a 9 route, and they just weren't playing. Their secondary, as good as it is, top 3, it just. Nico was Nico's great, but they just let him get.
So speaking of Houston and Baltimore, give me your what do you think? Before I ask you like score prediction or anything like that, because I want to do like all the games. We'll do a prediction on all the games. What do you think is not Baltimore, but what do you think Houston's main advantage they could exploit is? If they have any, if you even think they have any, right? Like basically if Houston's going to win, how would they win? How is it going to look?
Well, one thing, the thing is hitting us early, or hitting the Ravens early. I don't say us, but I think the biggest thing, and it's the thing on, we like being underdogs. So I kind of feel better when the Ravens didn't get picked to win the Super Bowl. Now it's still San Francisco. Granted, that's fine. We beat them there, but they are, I think, top to down, they do have the best team. I think we're close, but I'll give them that. I don't disagree with that. But I think hitting Ravens early, hitting them in the mouth. Then off the 3-week thing, I know some people are for it, some aren't. Like I said, I know that the game when it didn't matter against Pittsburgh, you don't play Lamar I even, in a way though, I kind of wanted him a little bit. I know that's hard to say because, like, just say you don't play your starters because
Yeah,
if he
talk
gets
about
hurt.
that. Talk about what happened last. A lot of people might not know what happened
Okay.
last time you were in the playoffs and why you're worried about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people are going to see that and be like, "What do you mean? Everybody rests their starters in Week 18 when they have the number 1 seed."
Yeah. So am I
Right?
shaking yet? Am I shaking? I don't get triggered a lot, but so to sum it up, the fans I do care about the AFC, especially with the Ravens this year, is 2019. We watched many games together. 2019 was probably our best year for the last. Been a while since the Super Bowl run, but that was just playoff run. But the overall, we were the number 1 seed overall. We didn't have it's a lot different this year, so I can compare that to. We were the number 1 overall seed. We were destroying everybody. We were running well. Ingram was good. We didn't have as many playmakers, but everybody was. It was just gelling. We were running really well. We were rushing. Our coordinator. We won't mention his name, but the running side of it was killing it. I mean, we were number 1 by, 40, 50 yards. It was crazy, just rushing.
Yep.
So working well. Lamar was running a lot more at that time. He doesn't run as much now, but he was still in the pocket because he had over 30 touchdowns that year. That's when he won his MVP. He was running well, but he was still doing well in the pocket. He was running a little too much, but that was Roman's offense. He was running after like 1 check down instead of like 3 now. But so we had a rest, same thing. We had the division locked up, had the 1 seed locked up before the last game of the season against the Steelers. Again, kind of weird against the Steelers. We usually play them late, but it's funny back to back at the same time.
Yeah.
The number 1 seed by far. We had it locked up by 2.5 games. We rest our starters. Fine. I'm all about resting starters. Why play them and get injured? Because if someone gets injured, you're gonna get hell from everybody, and that makes sense. So we rest everybody. We were pretty. I would say Ravens aren't really a cocky team. They're confident, but they usually don't. They like to have the chip on the shoulder. But that year, I think they were a little cocky. You can just tell how they spoke. Lamar was young. It wasn't Lamar. That's just part of the problem. Lamar was young. It was his second year. You got to think about it. That was his second year. The year before that, he played a half a year. He had a full year, and he had a good year, obviously. But the second year in the league, we had no receivers. If you can name the receivers, please do. If you can name one of the receivers, you probably can name one, maybe 2.
Perryman.
Hollywood was our number 1, but yeah, and it was.
Yeah.
We just had a lot of okay guys, no playmakers. That was the reason this year we got Lamar back, getting playmakers. But yeah, we had rest. We rested him in the Pittsburgh game. Nobody played, just like this year. The next week we had the bye because that was when the 2 seeds, first 1 and 2 get bye. We had 1, but we had a bye again, didn't play. But John didn't have him practice the week of the bye either. This year we practiced all week, so it was a little different. So John doesn't compare them, and he shouldn't. Completely different teams.
Sure.
There's no players are going to be all freaking out before the game the same way. It's completely different teams. But John did change, even though he said he wasn't worried about that. He practiced all week during the bye week last week. 2019 didn't practice all. Came in, just looked flat. They looked flat. I don't know if they were looking ahead. They might have a little bit. I would imagine they didn't look too far ahead, but it looked like they were. They came out flat. Lamar was overthrowing, and that's what Lamar still does sometimes. When he's out of sync, he'll overthrow players. But he's been great in the pocket. Anybody that doesn't say he's a pocket quarterback is crazy, but he does sometimes when he's out of sync, he will overthrow. Not underthrow, he'll hit in the area, but he'll overthrow people. And that's one thing he does when he's out of sync. The Tennessee game, a couple of overthrows. One, he had a touchdown the very first drive, missed him, threw the pick. Then we had the fumble in the next drive. It was just, you could just see they had a lot of rest and they just weren't there. It took us after halftime, we started playing a little bit better. I still had that hope. I was like, we'll come back. But they were out of sync. They got behind too far early.
They looked flat. I remember that game.
You play a team like, at that time, Tennessee, which was a good team, hot at the end, just like the team we're playing with the Texans, 1, 4, or 5. That hot team coming in, ground and pound. They get ahead, having one drive, like 8, 9 minutes. You're down by double digits. It's almost like you're down 20 points instead of 10. It's just you can't get behind at that time to Tennessee because Derek Henry was at his prime. They had ground and pounded us. So they got up big early, the fumble, interception. They drove down, scored, and they had A.J. Brown at that time too. Once it got down double digits, second half finally woke up a little bit. But every time they got it, if we didn't go down, at least get some points. If we went 3 and out, they take it, chunk off the clock, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there was like, we were down 10 points, 7, 10, 13 points one time. It was almost like 30. It's that team where they just had the time of possession. I don't know what the total time of possession was, but we just didn't have a lot of chances, and we didn't take advantage for that. So to sum that up, that ran for 2019 and now, Texans can get us if they hit us early, hit us in the mouth, shock us, because everybody shows Texans playing well. No one's underlooking them, not in the Ravens anyways. We have a lot more leaders this year. I think that helps. Lamar's older, obviously, by a couple years. Roquan, one of the best leaders. That's something we didn't have in the defense in 2019 was that veteran leader. We had good players because the defense was top 5. We didn't have. We had Earl. You know how bad Earl was after that. He made the Pro Bowl, but he just because his name.
End of his
He
career.
was our leader, and he
Yeah.
wasn't even coming to practices. He was doing his own thing. He was a me player.
Right.
But, I mean, Roquan. I mean, people just stepping up. Patrick Queen, Adebike in the middle, Humphrey. I mean, just the players we have, and obviously our secondary. It's just, I mean, just more veterans presence. Not to think we're too good. Practice hard, and really just this year's just different. They hit us in the nap early. I think that's going to be might be a little nervous because you're going to think back, not the players because so many new players, but just the fans. It's going to get quiet. It's going to take the fans out. If they come down and throw a 9 route or a 7 route and they score on the first drive, we go 3 and out. It's only 7 points, but I think some of that if they hit us early.
Yeah, I think CJ. Yeah, and I also think CJ and crew are a different team on grass than they are on turf.
Yep.
So I think that's the thing. It takes some of their speed away.
They play dome. So
and I agree. I think that's the only concern for the game is if y'all are just stale, just like kind of just not ready. The other thing is that I think is interesting is, and I heard somebody bring this up. I can't remember where it was. Mark Andrews coming back and the passing game clicking like it has been. How does that impact Lamar? Because when Lamar's passing game took off when Andrews got out. I'm not saying Andrews is a top 3 tight end, but he really started to be forced to spread the ball around to multiple guys. And I think that really opened him up a little bit and helped him develop. I fear that Andrews comes back and he leans on him a little too much and it messes up the flow of your passing game early and then allows the Texans to hang around. And then, like you're saying, because of the time off, the team isn't fully prepared to or isn't fully like ready for that, or not even ready for it, but like it surprises them to an extent that they're not up by 14 plus points in the third quarter, right?
Yeah, and it takes the crowd out. It takes the crowd out. I think the big thing, like you said, you brought up a great point with that. Just with the type of team is with CJ playing so well. If you look at the Cleveland game, he had some time, which is crazy. I mean, he did go away from Garrett a lot, which was smart, but he had some time to throw. I mean, he went back, he looked down his check downs, but and that's the same with Lamar is I would never say anybody getting hurt. Andrew's going out. I thought, well, we brought in people. So, and if Lamar's as good as he is, and these receivers are better than what we've had, which you could be better than receivers we've had in the past. It definitely, actually, in one way, if you had to look at a positive, which there's no positive spin losing Mark Andrews, is it made him do you brought up a good point. It made him look at other people. What he does is he has his 1-2 check downs. He doesn't run unless it's third check down now, which is great. We don't like doing that. Todd doesn't like that. He says you stay in the pocket when you can. Sometimes he used to stay in the pocket too long, but now it's like 1 or 2. But he always used to find Andrews. That was his safety blanket. Even this year, we were doing well, but he had Andrews' safety blanket. When that was gone, the biggest criticism was, his safety blanket's gone. How is he going to get the other guys? But really, the other guys stepped up. He looked at everybody. He's looked great, actually, knock on wood, without Andrews. He's looked just as good, if not better. Hopefully, when he comes back, I think now that he has that rapport with OBJ's played a lot better than that first couple of games when he was just kind of getting back into it and he had a hurt ankle. Bateman's catching the ball now, actually, first-round draft pick, actually earning some kind of money because he's either hurt or just doesn't play. But I think that did help in one way, Andrews being out. That's the only positive spin is him and him back. Even if he's not healthy, I don't think he plays this week just because if it was Cleveland, not saying not to knock down the Texans, I mean, based on the type of matchup, I think if he's good to go, he'll play. But I think if it's like, you can play, maybe be like a decoy or something, I don't think they'll risk it because they don't want to risk. I think they're going to definitely want to keep him for if it's Kansas City or Buffalo. Not because of the Texans game. I just think they want to make sure he's completely healthy and the way Likely's playing. And Lamar trusts Likely now.
Yeah, I'd roll the dice.
Likely had 3 touchdowns out of 4 games. Like Likely's doing his job as a tight end. So as much as I want them both, I think that, I think having Andrews out, that's the one spin you can spin, like you said, was it really helped him. He didn't have a safety blanket. He had to find trust in Bateman again and OBJ and Flowers. Of course, we don't talk about Flowers. He's probably our best receiver. It made him trust other people more. He had games where he was going to 6 players.
Right.
Automatic lights. Oh, come on. There we go. That was the thing.
So, all right. Since the automatic lights keep going, I want to.
I hope Andrews does come back, but I think that it will take. I don't think they'll play unless he's really good, especially in the cold too. He's running routes this week, which is crazy because when he first got hurt, we saw that. We were watching it. I thought it was. He was out for a while, but I think it did help him trust other people.
So, what's your score predictions for the games this week? I don't want to keep you too long. I know you got other things going on. You want to start with the Ravens game?
Don't
And a score?
I guess, how about first you give me what you think it's going to be, and I'll give
Okay.
you what I want. I don't usually like doing scores because I don't want to jinx it, but I will.
So,
I'll give you a score.
all right, quick breakdown. I think the Ravens are going to overwhelm them. I don't think they're going to be as solid in this game. I think your secondary is too strong. I don't think they're going to be able to pass the ball like they want to, especially with no Tank Dell.
Right.
My guess is 27-14 Ravens, and I think that it's going to be like 21-13 or 14. Like it's like 27-13. So it'll be like 21-13. You're going to attack a field goal on, and then another one, and they're going to be overwhelmed at the end of the day, and that's how it's going to end. So I think y'all are going to be in high 20s. I think they're low teens. I think they're going to come out, and it might be like they may even come out and take a 10-7 lead or something, right? And they may get the ball first, score touchdown, 10-7, and then you're just going to wake up a little bit. And I think that's probably the way it's going to go if I had to bet.
Yeah, and I like, I do a lot of betting too as well. I mean, I think the spread, I haven't looked in a while, but I think it's like 45.5, which is kind of changing based on the defense and how cold it's going to be. Yeah. I mean, it is going to be, I'll be at the game, as you know. It's going to be 17 degrees at game time. Definitely not. Yeah. And I'm okay with that, like I said, but it's going to be about 17 degrees and there's going to be a little bit of wind. So I know that's going to be, for both teams, it's going to be a little rough. So I think it's going to obviously put down the score a little bit, but it's 45.5 is the spread. I would probably say, I think it's going to go under maybe 27-17.
Okay.
About 10-point game.
So you're saying you're taking the under on that,
which is pretty close to it. Yeah, I think it's going to be a 27-17. I think if we get up, we'll try to not make any mistakes and just try to ground and pound it out after that with the running backs. So
you want to make predictions on the other three games?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Okay, so San Francisco and Green Bay. I think this is the upset alert game. I wouldn't bet on it, but I do think that San Francisco, they have some time off as well. I think Green Bay is hot, and I think they're going to give them all I think they're going to give them all they can handle, to put it that way. If you watch that way the Niners win games, they do tend to kind of look like they're overpowering teams. And you look back at the box score and the score of the game, you're like, oh, they only won by 10. That's interesting. Right. It felt like it was 30. So I think this is going to be like 31-28 San Francisco, and Green Bay just takes them right down to the wire, if I had to bet.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting hot at the right time. I mean, that's I would have never thought. I mean, like I said, a Cowboys game, I really just thought since the Cowboys were at home, I thought the Packers, Jordan Love has had some good games, but he's been up and down, especially the type of defense the Cowboys have. I really thought that the Cowboys would just, beat them. I didn't think that was my most surprising. That was even more surprising for me over the Bucs game, the way the Eagles were falling off. That didn't surprise me because Eagles' secondary was just trash. So that didn't surprise me, but this did surprise me. But I know the spread's a little bit higher. I think it's around 50, 51, something like that. And what was your score? What did you say your final score was?
I think 31-28.
Okay. High scoring
which
game.
Is 50-51. So I'm sorry, 49.
You said 31. You said 31.
No. Yeah, 50. I'm getting 59. Sorry, I don't know why.
Yeah, you're going high. Yeah, you're going about 10 over, which is still good. I mean, it could go back, especially with that.
I'd take the over. I'd smash the over in this one.
Especially with the Packers, if their offense does start clicking and they can run the ball. I think the biggest thing is if they get behind early, if Jordan can just play taking away Aaron, because Aaron helped him so much last week of him doing the little combination.
Yeah.
The both. But I'm going to say 49ers. I really do think it's going to be a close game. I think Packers are playing really well now. I'm going to say 31 for the 49ers, 31-20, 31-20, 24.
Okay.
I think it's only 7, so it's still a little bit lower, but I think it's going to be around there too. So right around the 50s. So.
All right. Lions and I just went brain dead on
Lions,
that.
Bucks.
Sorry. Yeah, because the Bucks are so irrelevant in my brain.
Right.
All right. Lions, Bucks. I think this is a weird game. I kind of almost want to take the Bucks based on what I saw, but then you have to kind of bring yourself down to earth. The Eagles look like complete trash. So
the secondary's bad, man.
Yeah, I think being in Detroit, they're still high on life. They want to keep this going. I think Detroit wins. I do think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be another similar game that we just saw them play and beat the Rams. I think it's going to be 24-17. Baker's got a chance to tie it late. and can't come through
Yeah.
because he throws a pick or something. I just don't think they've got enough juice to do that twice in a row, especially away from home in that place. They're going to be those fans are going to be over the top. They're going to be crazy. So that's my guess.
And I think I would say never to think ahead because I just want to win a game because I know the Ravens' biggest thing is winning the playoffs anyway. So just get through 1 week at a time. But I think if I had to pick a team, no, never want to lose the Super Bowl if I make it there, or if we make it there, the Ravens make it. But the Lions would be the only team in the NFC. I'd be like, it would still kill me, and I probably wouldn't talk to anybody for at least a month or so. But if it did happen like that, I think the Lions. It's a good story. I mean, just to see that game and see how the fans. I mean, after the game, just grown men crying.
Yeah.
It was funny. Emily just didn't get it. I was like, you just don't understand. They haven't won since '91. That's the first playoff win they won since '91.
They may be the only more them and the Browns might be the only franchises more tortured than Buffalo. So I have a soft spot.
True, and I know you've been through some of that stuff. At least you've had success with Allen, but
we've been more successful lately than these teams. But they've gone through probably more. I mean, they neither have been to a Super Bowl. They haven't won a playoff game since '91. That's when Barry Sanders was around and was had the league on fire. So in his prime,
think of our life, imagine over half your life, 3/4 of your life, and you haven't won a play. Like I guess take things for granted. Even I did with the Ravens. It's just to beat out on '91. But yeah, with that, I really like the Lions. I think that they got the monkey off their back. I don't think the Bucs are that good. Baker has been playing well there. You know me. I'm not a big Baker fan. But like I said, I think the Lions are going to win. I think I would like to say a little bit. It's going to be in a dome too. I think with the way they're playing, I think they're going to score. I think it's going to be 30. I'll keep going high on games, but I'm going to say 34, 21.
Okay.
I think that's going to be my game where I think and the Bucs have been playing well. Good for them last week. I think really just the Bucs took the Eagles because Baker just threw a guy wide open and there was nobody from 5 yards. I mean, you could zone out and there was nobody there.
Like they looked unmotivated.
Couldn't tackle.
They didn't look motivated at all. Philly, like that was one of the worst. That was one of the weakest performances by a playoff team that's been playing poorly. They did not look like they cared. And
I couldn't believe that. The
tackling could be the reason why he was so good too.
Yeah, Ray Lewis was on the with the Mannings talking about it a little bit, and I didn't see. I watched a little bit of it after, and he was getting so frustrated because he was like, "Did they just not work on tackling? Like it was all about me. It was a lot of me stuff. They would just try to arm tackle and then just kind of give up. It didn't seem like a team that was 10-1, and then just fell up. I mean, it was crazy how they fell apart. I've never seen a team do that.
Yeah. So, all right, last game. Buffalo, Kansas City.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'll let you get you.
I've been waiting a long time to get those chumps in our house. So, they keep saying keep hearing Allen. He owns Allen. This one. I mean, the 3-3 against each other.
Yeah,
and most of those games are in Kansas City. We've only played once in Buffalo, and that was Allen's first year. He showed up on the scene, being, playing better than average. So we've won the last 3 against them. They've all been in Kansas City. They're coming to Buffalo. We're hyped for this game. I think this game. I think we're going to win, and I think we're going to win by 10 points. However, if the only thing that could really derail us is if, let's say all these injuries just pile up and most of these guys just don't play. And then we have a problem, I think Allen not having a turnover 2 days ago is huge. It gets him on a pattern of, okay, you're back on the horse of playoff Josh Allen, who's been great in the playoffs through his career. And I do think that he jumps out on top, and I think we frustrate the Chiefs a little bit early. And I do think that the crowd plays a integral part in this whole situation. They never have to deal with opposing teams because it's the first away game in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Buffalo's crowd. I mean, next to Kansas City, Buffalo is probably the loudest stadium in the league. The fans are the craziest. They throw snowballs and they say awful things to them, but you're in our stadium, so whatever. And I do think that we end up it goes back and forth a little bit. I think it's we go up 7, they cut it to 4, then we go up 11, then they cut it to 4, and then we go, it's going to go back and forth. And I do think that I think we put up 31, and I think it's let's not say 10, 31-23 is my guess. That's what I think. I think Allen outduels Mahomes. And their defense is really good, by the way. I think that their defense is really good, but I think they can be had if you attack the appropriate areas of the field. And most of that, in my opinion, is over the middle. Their linebackers are not cover linebackers. Their safety, just Reed's good, but he's not a free safety. He's not a down the field kind of guy. Their free safety is a backup level player. Jadarius Sneed scares me, but Diggs hasn't done anything anyway. So we're just going to go away from that matchup anyhow. And I think Shakir can get some balls. And I think that Kincaid and Knox are going to play well. And they have a hard time stopping the run. So I think it's going to be another James Cook game. So I don't think it's going to be like super duper pretty. I think there's going to be a couple turnovers. But the weather's supposed to be relatively nice. The other thing is Buffalo hasn't practiced all week yet. Well, today would have been the first day, so I shouldn't say all week, but they're in another snowstorm. So unless they get there with snowmobiles or spent the night last night, they're not practicing today, and they're probably doing most things over Zoom, which is fine. Today's a walkthrough day anyway, but so there are some things that could change my opinion on this game. If, let's say, Terrell Bernard doesn't play and Christian Benford's out and we aren't able to adequately practice at all tomorrow, then I would switch my pick. And I'm thinking that it's going to be closer than 31-23. It might be, 27-24 Chiefs, But as of right now, from what I know, I think it's going to be like an 8.7, 8, maybe 10-point game. And I think Buffalo is a better team, especially at home.
Yeah. And the thing is with Mahomes never playing on the road. I think, if people are healthy at what we're going on since they're day-to-day injuries, and you think they're going to try to play no matter what, because those are two big pieces, obviously, your best corners and your best linebacker pretty much in the middle of the field, especially with Kelsey. Kelsey did have 3 drops last week. He's still a great player, but it's obviously, not playing up to the same level. He has had some drops, especially in the cold, which is kind of funny because it's so cold there anyways. But I would, if I had to put in and out based on everybody being healthy, them coming to you and not having to play on the road ever in the playoffs, that those fans are going to be pretty crazy as well. I think it's going to go a little low scoring, which is crazy because I think the two offenses, a lot of people look at the offenses in that game, which just makes sense because they both have really high power offenses. I'm going to say, since the Bills are on a hot streak, winning 6 in a row, that's obviously you get hot at the right time. Definitely helps. So I'm going to probably say I'm going to go lower scoring though. It's one of my lower ones. So I feel like I went high on so many. 21-17 Bills.
Okay.
I'm about that. A little bit lower than what it is, just because I'm thinking of the cold and how it's working. The defense, obviously, it's funny, the Chiefs' offense isn't as good this year, and they have Rice as their main receiver, but their defense is, top 3. It's crazy how it doesn't work together at the same time. But also the Bills' offense has been great. And when Allen's Allen, that's the thing that's tough, is when Allen plays at Allen level and he doesn't red zone turnovers, nothing like that. It's just hard to stop him. Really, especially at home.
And you might be right.
It could be.
It may be a lower scoring game.
I went high a lot. So
I'm going to stick with it, but I'm going to stick with my prediction. But I do think that I can see that being a lower scoring game too, just because the weather shouldn't be much of a factor. It's going to be in the teens and 20s, and it's not going to be much wind, based on what they're saying now. So, I think the offenses will be able to operate if they play efficiently. And it just depends on what area of the field they're attacking and things like that. If we start trying to force the ball to Diggs and they start trying to force the ball to Kelsey and it's not working, I could see this game going in the teens for sure. The last one was in the teens. I'm sorry, low 20s, last 2 since the 13 seconds game. So we'll see. But I do think that it's going to be the game of the week in some ways. I think that everyone's looking forward to it. It's the last game of the weekend. So anyhow, you got anything else you want to talk about? Or
a couple little things. One right there, my lucky charm right here. This is Mason's jersey, Lamar jersey up there,
Mason
hanging out.
Rudolph's jersey.
So I'm in it's other Mason. That's my since I'm in a random spare office at work today, I had to have some kind of Raven gear up here. So I had that. Another thing is the stash, as you see it there. I know you're mesmerized at the beginning, but you didn't want to say anything. That's okay. I understand that. But I for January football, I said that I would, if the Ravens got the 1 seed, I would, get a little crazy on my beard. So I shaved my beard and kept the mustache. And then added this little, soul patch kind of thing. I don't know what it is.
Pirate situation.
Yeah, people at work are telling me they like it. I'm like doing it more of a joke. I think people are just lying to me. But you know what? We're going to go with it. We're going to go with it for now. So pretty much I 21-17. I do cheer you guys on. I would be, the selfish side of me kind of wants, well, I don't really want Mahomes either. I don't want either one of you guys. But selfish of me, the way you're playing, being hot the last 6 games, Obviously, you have to go to Baltimore if that happens. So I kind of wouldn't mind the Chiefs, but I do think you guys have earned the spot and winning how you did at the end when you had no chance at the 2 seed. It was like 5% to even make the playoffs, which is crazy. So I just don't think the way they have dropped. And then Rice had over 100 yards last week. I told you I liked Rice, but if that's your main guy, I mean, Kelsey's dropping balls and he's just a little bit slower. Still great, but I really just think it's your guy to lose. I think the spread's 2.5. But I really think it's going to be a lower scoring game there just by the cold and how you guys play defense and how they play defense. But get your running game involved, man. I'm glad you got a running back now. He can catch out of the backfield. I mean, I think that's just a game changer. I think he's going to have some big runs. I think he's going to have some catches where he's going to go for a lot. I think they're going to focus on Diggs so much. I really think Cook's going to cook. He's going to cook. I love Diggy Diggs, but I really think that's going to put it over. I think you guys are going to put it out. From there. So
cool. Well, thanks for coming out, dude. I'll talk to you later on this week. Probably. I'll probably see you. Well, you're going to the game, so I might not see you, but I'll see you definitely next week once it's all over. And that's pretty much it, man.
Well, if we lose, you might not see me for a year or so. I might just disappear off the face of the earth. So
me too. Me too.
I'll just beautiful face. Maybe last time you see it.
Yeah.
Either one of us. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, but I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Like, share, and subscribe. And see you next time.
Go Ravens.